This lesson will describe the fishing trip and port visit log, referred to in Toughman as the vessel activity log. First of all, we'll look at what the fishing trip and port visit log is. This form is to be used for each licensed vessel, ideally as a condition of the license. The form should be completed by the fishing company or vessel captain responsible for the vessel, again as a condition of the licensing arrangement. The form to be completed for each licensed vessel covers the calendar year, since this corresponds to the requirement for producing annual catch estimates. This form requires the recording of each period when a fishing trip was undertaken, and requires the recording of periods in between fishing trips when the vessel is in port or not fishing, but transiting from port to port. Every day within a calendar year for each licensed vessel should be accounted for on the form. The form is provided by the fishing company or vessel captain to the National Fisheries Division on an annual basis, usually in January each year, and covers activities for the previous year. So why do we use the fishing trip and port visit log? The annual fishing trip and port visit log provides a concise record of periods of activity, that is fishing trips, and periods of inactivity of a vessel throughout the year. There is currently no other data collection that attempts to cover all periods of activity and inactivity of a vessel within an entire calendar year. Most other types of data collection are concerned with one vessel trip unit only, and not the periods of inactivity. Since the requirement of this form is to cover all periods within a calendar year, it is easy to identify gaps where periods should have been recorded and inform the fishing company accordingly. The estimation of annual catches is a data reporting obligation for all flag state members of the WCPFC. The purpose of the annual fishing trip and port visit log is to cross-check the provision of other types of data, for example logsheet, unloadings and port sampling data, that are used to estimate annual catch estimates. Put another way, the main purpose of the vessel activity log is to determine coverage of other types of data in an efficient and convenient manner. For example, where there is a gap of 2 months in fishing activity for a particular vessel according to logsheets and unloadings data, without the annual fishing trip and port visit log, there is no way to determine whether fishing had actually occurred, since logsheet and unloadings are based on the single trip level only. The vessel activity log will clearly indicate what activity occurred in the 2-month gap in the absence of the logsheet and unloading data. So how do we use the fishing trip and port visit log? Toughman relies on the current standard form being used, as found in the latest biennial report from the Tuna Fishery Data Collection Committee, and you can refer to the website on screen to find those. It is strongly advised that the use of the fishing trip and port visit log is a condition of the fishing license. Ensure that the fishing trip and port visit log covers all periods within the calendar year for both periods of activity and inactivity. That concludes this lesson.